Glastonbury?
No.
You're not much of a hippie then, are you?
I'm not a hippie. I never was.
Connor, you're a young person.
Do I look like I would be seen dead in a field surrounded by middle-class,
Drug-taking
triple-barreled surnamed, off their head, with a cup of Ket in one hand and a cup of their own urine in the other? No, thank you.
I want to say I've watched a lot of great bands live, though.
It
wasn't in a festival context.
Yeah, I saw the BBC thing of Glastonbury last year because my parents were watching it, and I was heartbroken when my future wife Billie Eilish got up on stage and started talking about Roe v. Wade.
Why do you like this whining songs?
Okay, look, she's
got
got very good
damaged,
voice.
man.
I can fix her.
No. This is not the right mindset.
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree. Just steer clear, man. Anyway, before we begin, go check out the latest episode of Brokenomics, where Professor Peter St. Onge was interviewed by Dan. And he is an economist at the Heritage Foundation, a fellow at the Mises Foundation, a former professor, and a person who is concerned about the way things are going. So he actually has some useful stuff to say. Glowing reviews on this interview, by the way. So go and check that out. Anyway, let's begin with Glastonbury. So Glastonbury is, of course, highly political. This is a band called Young Fathers who were on the stage saying, well, let's just watch.
Say it loud, say it clear, refugees are welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear, refugees are welcome here. Fuck the Tories, this one's for Suella. Shame!
Sorry, I remember the same thing happening in Greece in 2015.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, where the borders opened, and in a year we had an influx of 10% of the population.
Yeah.
That would be the equivalent of 7 million people in the UK in a year.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to say
14 times more than the actual number.
The latter half of his statement, F the Tories, this one was Suella, this one's for Suella, that was very much also the sentiment inside the National Conservative Conference after the mainstream Conservatives finished their speech. So perhaps there might be an olive branch to be extended here.
No, definitely not for what they're asking for. So who are the Young Fathers? I've never heard of this band, obviously. If you can go to the next one. They're a Scottish group that were formed in Edinburgh, Scotland. Scottish group formed in Edinburgh, Scotland. They won Scottish Album of the Year in 2013. In 2014, they got the Mercury Prize for their debut album. Their second album was called White Men Are Black Men Too.
What?
Average Scottish thought. That's what Scottish people tend to think about. The members of the band are Aloysius Massacoy, born in Liberia, moved to Edinburgh at the age of 4. Caius Bankole, born in Edinburgh to Nigerian parents, and Graham Hastings, who was actually born in Edinburgh as well and grew up in a housing scheme. Average Scottish band. So anyway, this reminded me very much of Corbyn's 2017 speech at Glastonbury, because it's always been an insanely left-wing thing, because it's insanely middle class, and because the middle class literally have no conception of morality at all. And so any programming that has come down to them, they can be told by the authorities, oh, this is good. They can be like, finally, I don't have to do any more thinking. Refugees good. Tories bad. Moral calculus sorted. Now I'm a good person, right? So if we get to the next one, this was him speaking at Glastonbury with very much the same message. So in the last 6 years, it's been the same message over and over and over. Of course, Corbyn is addressing the great golden god emperor, Donald Trump. You brought the spirit of music, the spirit of love, the spirit of ideas, and you brought the spirit of messages. Great messages. There's a message on that wall for President Donald Trump. Do you know what it says? Build bridges, not walls.
Ugh. The Pope said that once as well.
On what wall, though? What wall indeed? Because I actually looked this up. If you go to the next one, John, you can see that Glastonbury Festival is protected by Sunbelt Rentals, right? They say, quote, we provide more than 8,000 meters of what they call the super fortress fence around the perimeter of the site.
It's the barrier from World War Z.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's actually the barrier from World War Z, right? And there's 8 kilometers as well of interior mesh fence. So this is a wall that puts the walls of Constantinople to shame. Way bigger.
They've got the sentry turrets from the high rise in Dread.
Yeah.
Does it electrocute you if you touch it?
I don't know if it's electrified yet, But I imagine in the future there will be something like that. But it's is there a picture of this? It's just enormous, right? And so they're like, the reason that they need this fence, right, is, quote, to help ensure the continued future of the Glastonbury Festival by stopping illegal entry into the site and providing a safe environment for legitimate festival goers.
Oh, come on.
I totally agree. Jeremy Corbyn. Like, so when they say refugees are welcome here, they don't mean inside the Super Fortress fence. I can't believe it's called the Super Fortress fence.
I wish this was just along the beach of Dover.
Yeah, right. Could we build maybe a bigger Super Fortress fence? Could other people contract these to build more fortress fences around things that we want to make a safe environment for legitimate people in there? It's just amazing. Right, it's 4 meters high and 8 kilometers long. That's
They
amazing.
should dig trenches and have hot oil for people who want to
Alligators.
enter. Yes, and
Why not? Like
people would have battering rams to enter. You know,
Sort of Siege of Helm's Deep.
yes, yes.
the walls at Helm's Deep probably were not 4 meters high.
Yeah, but they would lose money.
Yeah, they would. Yeah. But so I just can't get over, like, where are all those people like fences don't work? Well, the Glastonbury Festival proves that they do work. Walls work. So all of the again, refugees are welcome here. Yeah, not here. You know, build bridges, not walls, except for that wall. You know, we go build your bridge somewhere else, right? So they can say one thing, but the revealed preference is for very sturdy defenses that clearly work and protect the integrity of the Glastonbury Festival for the legitimate festival goers who have paid to enter, who deserve to be there, to keep out the riffraff and immigrants who haven't. That's what that's about. But anyway, so let's go on. There was a screening, or due to be a screening, of a very controversial Jeremy Corbyn film there. So, of course, Jeremy Corbyn has been ejected from the left by the fascist Keir Starmer, quote unquote, and his stormtroopers, who have been like, you know what, we're not having all this communist nonsense because we'd like to win power at some point. And so this was a controversial film called Jeremy Corbyn, The Big Lie.
What's controversial by the title?
The title isn't the thing that's controversial, I suspect.
Well,
It might be.
Where does the phrase "a big lie" come from?
Yeah, that was kind of a question, wasn't it?
Goebbels, isn't it?
Yes, it
right.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was he kicked out of the Labour Party for again?
It was anti-Semitism. That's
Oh
true.
dear. Oh no.
And so the Glastonbury Festival organisers were like, hang on a second. This feels vaguely anti-Semitic.
It's just 3 hours of Jeremy Corbyn scrolling through Wikipedia pages.
And and of course the screening was cancelled after accusations of anti-Semitism. There were lots and lots of people who are leveraging anti-Semitism against Jeremy Corbyn. Do you actually think Jeremy Corbyn is an anti-Semite?
He did write a foreword to a book that had some rather anti-Semitic chapters in it. So,
Okay, maybe he is.
I would say he's either the world's worst judge of character,
I think that's maybe true.
yeah, or he consistently picks positions that aren't big fans of the people of Israel.
Just happened to align. I personally don't actually think he's a genuine anti-Semite. I think he's just a really poor judge of character. But maybe I'm just being too charitable to old Mr. Corbyn there. But anyway, they apparently were going to screen it anyway. We don't care. We're screening it. You know, I couldn't actually find out whether it had actually been screened or not. So I'm just going to assume it was. Because why not fight the power? Screen the anti-Semitic film at Glastonbury. If you have to. Anyway, so The Guardian.
There we go. It has actually been there.
Oh, yeah, no, it was actually, yeah. Right, okay. It was in a small tent outside the festival, right. And a committed group of hardcore anti-Semites.
Oh, you can tell it's so middle class as well because they're laughing as like a Hindu wedding.
Yes.
Like, come on.
But look at them all.
I think the age average is close to 97.
Well, let's talk about that because The Guardian were like, hey, check out the British youth at Glastonbury. Now, they changed the title of this, but you can see in the link at the top, this is what the British youth look like by Martin Parr. Right? They changed the title because it turned out, and if you want to just scroll through this a minute, John, as you can see from the pictures, actually, that's the youngest looking person there. Go down to the next one. You'll realize that, they've got a particular, they're not looking quite so young, actually, at all.
Thor up front's fallen on hard times. Isn't
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure that dad's.
They try to keep it real.
Yeah, look at the guy down there. Like, these actually aren't very young people at all. But what a beautiful bunch they are, eh?
Physiognomy is real.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so-
blimey, come on, have some modesty. I mean,
They must be friends. I don't think they're a couple.
Just typical young people in Britain, you see. Don't you feel represented, Connor?
to be fair,
Average young person with Extinction Rebellion.
I do frequent a pub near Soho, so I have seen this on a Saturday
Yeah.
night.
Yeah. But look, there's Granny there.
I don't like the tiger
on earth?
outfits.
Sorry?
I don't like the tiger dresses.
Well, no, who does? They're the youngest people there, I
There's
imagine.
some very
in their
dilated
mid-20s.
pupils.
Again, British youth on display. Anyway, we'll leave that there because we'll get to the stats of the festival because we actually have them.
That was fun.
So, talking about festival data is very interesting, right? Half of them are married. So, or married or in a relationship. So, this isn't just young single people out for fun. More than half are married or in a relationship. And the overall average age is 39. So, I would feel quite at home there, actually. Only 21 to 25-year-olds are only 18% of the festival.
So it's insufferable middle class Gen Xers.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes, that's exactly it.
So that is an interesting broader point, though. It's that most single young people are so atomized and stratified they're just barely meeting each other anymore.
Yeah. Who are you going to go to the festival with? You're not getting friends.
What is it, like 27% of young men 18 to 30 have reported no partners in that time? Okay,
Yep.
that's like societal collapse level figures, and I don't blame them for not wanting to go to this, particularly because you're not exactly going to meet a nice girl when she's in a Primark one piece hopped up on MDMA,
Yeah.
are you?
Might meet a nice MILF. 39 years old.
It's a bit like Leo DiCaprio on the beach,
Big fan of pizza and lager, which is apparently mostly what they drank and ate.
or Baz
So-
attending Glastonbury this year.
Yeah, apparently. It's high class.
Love my Billie Eilish,
Yeah.
love my Jeremy Corbyn.
Anyway, moving on. You may have noticed one thing about Glastonbury, and it's pretty white.
Yeah.
And this is a thing they've been saying for a while. God, this
Hamza
is
Yusuf, most effective.
yeah. They've got a diversity statement, so they've at least paid lip service to diversity. They say we recognise that the festival has grown within a wider society where discrimination on the basis of race, gender, ethnicity, or visible or unseen disabilities, sexual orientation, heritage. Oh my God. Religion, age, family status, social class, or education has perpetuated structural inequalities which limit people's life's chances. Yes, being a human is what determines what is potentially something you can or can't do. For example, I'm 5'9". I will never be a basketball player. I have come to peace with this. Neither are you.
Yeah.
Neither of us like.
I'm never going to be a hat model.
That's
So-
very true. Yeah, exactly. See, there are limits because people are human beings and they are different. But they say we've been listening to the experiences of our audience, crew, and artists. They are renewing our commitment to identifying and addressing inequality wherever it might exist within the festival. Because of course, Glastonbury Festival is riddled with inequalities, such as when they announced their headlines. A lot of people are like, hang on a second, these are all white men.
It's also the lining act. Presumably, big names come. They sing. They have the final stage to sing.
yeah.
There's also the inequality between those who go into it and those who are separated from it by the fence. You showed.
I can't remember who it was. Who was that Lizzo was below, like, you know, a very famous and ancient rock band. I can't remember which one it was.
I'm not surprised.
Well, exactly. But loads of them were like, well, why isn't Lizzo headlining? Like, the
Why
hell
should
would
she be?
Yeah, why should she be? Exactly. I think it was like Guns N' Roses or something. You know, it's like, come on. But anyway, so yeah, on Twitter, Glastonbury fans were like, hang on a second. There are a lot of straight white men here. I kind of hate straight white men. If you go back to the previous one, I hate straight white men. And literally that was, I mean, they literally said, quote, disappointing and awful. One wrote, an entirely all-white male headline trio, bravo on the diversification Glasto, says the white audience of Glastonbury.
May I ask, what was the reason that Lizzo cited for not being the headline act?
Lizzo didn't complain.
Was it fat phobia?
No,
was
Lizzo
it
didn't complain.
They
Oh, she
couldn't
did.
It was
reinforce the stage
fat.
enough.
No, she was on the stage. There's a very strong, sturdy stage. Thank you. It's as strong as the walls. No, Lizzo didn't complain. It was people complaining that there were white people on the stage. Anyway, let's move on to some woke drama. Have you ever heard of Rina Sawayama?
No.
No.
No, I've never heard of her either. But She on the stage was like, I wrote this song because I'm sick and tired of these microaggressions. This goes out to a white man who mocks Asians on his podcast. Oh, just shut up. Anyway, they did have some diversity. If we can go to the actual lineup. If you can scroll down on this a bit, you can see that they had some. Oh, yeah, it was Guns N' Roses. Right, on the Saturday, Lizzo just below Guns N' Roses. So why isn't Lizzo's first? Because this is Guns N' Roses.
I'm more offended that Rick Astley got last billing.
Great point. Actually.
Yeah, my celebrity lookalike
Yeah.
got short served.
But as you can see, they did have diversity there. Shut up. But of
They
course,
didn't have anyone good, really.
they didn't really have much diversity in the crowd, and that's the issue.
I'm surprised Texas is there, 4th.
I don't even know who the Arctic Monkeys are.
What, really?
No,
Oh, they're like a
Queens of the
early
Stone Age. I
2000s.
quite like them.
I would have appreciated Elton John showing up until he turned around and said that the US is really prejudiced because of their gender-affirming care bans, and I'm never performing there again.
Okay. Right. Anyway, moving on. You get people who've been complaining about the lack of diversity at Glastonbury, but not on the stage. This was last year where Lenny Henry was like, oh, yeah, they're all white. Why are they all white? And he said in an interview with the Radio Times, it's interesting to watch Glastonbury and look at the audience and not see any black people there. I'm always surprised by the lack of black and brown faces at festivals. I think, wow, this is still very much a dominant culture thing.
Because it's not held in Brixton.
What are we supposed to do? Conscript them? Like, don't know what are the options? What are your suggestions, Lenny? Oh no, a bunch of English people are going to a festival. I have a problem with that. And so, the thing is, he makes a good point because then it makes you wonder, well, who was, say, Stormzy Stabfest for in 2019? Do you remember this?
Yeah, because when he got up on stage and called Boris Johnson a effing C.
Yeah, if you go to the next one, Stormzy performed in a Stabfest allegedly made by Banksy, but that feels very much like a retcon to me. Because apparently Stormzy had no idea it was made by Banksy, but it's okay, whatever. But why would he do this? Now, this was, at the time, during a spate of knife crime in London, primarily.
Oh, that's not changed.
No, that hasn't changed. And it's being done primarily by young men in the black community, which, again, is still going on. So who is the statement being made for if, as Lenny Henry points out, they aren't present at Glastonbury? Right? It's genuflecting towards a woke middle class, kind of like a hyper real morality. It's like, look, I'm saying this, but is there a single young man in London who's like, oh, well, Stormzy wore that stab vest. I better think about putting down this knife.
And also, the constituency you're addressing within the crowd, do they have any tangible understanding of the causes of the issue or any of the solutions?
No, they'll say it's
sweep it under the
racism.
rug. Yeah, or they'll also say it's socioeconomic factors.
Yeah,
Or,
and the Tories underfunding something.
Yeah.
Or something, right? So what's the target audience? Well, it's to simply reinforce that being woke and progressive in the audience is good, and anyone who has any concrete suggestions is bad. I mean, Boris Johnson actually did get knife crime down because of stop and search, but of course, Stormzy would say stop and search is racist, and therefore the cycle will continue. So just a final thing, how much do you think the headline is being paid at Glastonbury?
oh, Elton John?
Yeah.
Oh, blimey. Got to be a couple of million.
Nah, it's actually not that much.
Really?
Yeah, it's, they say, quote, under 500,000 per headline. It's still quite
That's
a lot.
surprising.
But yeah, you'd think Elton John would charge more, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But no, that's, not terrible amount. But I mean, hundreds of thousands. So
Yeah, I'd get out of bed for that. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah, I personally would. Yeah. And so the next one is just a picture of the vast festival. Can we play this with no audio on, John? See if we can get that going in the
You
background.
remember when you asked why I haven't gone? That.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
I travel through London every day. Getting on the
size of it.
tube with it being that slightly dense is hell on earth for me. You're not going to pack me in a field, get smothered in mud and excrement, and stand next to that many people, and pay to do it as well.
Do you think it's good for the environment?
I would doubt it. They're leaving plastic cups and small plastic bags everywhere.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they say they feel bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's okay then, if they feel bad. Like, we've got pictures of the cleanup, actually. If we can go to the next one, John. You can see, you just flip through some of the pictures there. I mean, is that environmentalism?
Let me just say something. I watched a
2,000 tons of
documentary.
waste. Sorry.
I watched a documentary. I think it's called Trainwreck, and it was about Woodstock '99.
Oh, yeah.
And it at some point there was a scene where there was a woman who was, I think, also in the original Woodstock in 1969, trying to get the people there to clean up. and she was handling them bags, and they were completely pissed off, and they said, we paid so much money here.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's an amazing documentary.
Do you remember the story quite a few years ago that said that Bristol's river water is contaminated with cocaine due to all the urine?
I think London's is as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the grass doesn't grow back without some severe assistance, because I imagine that's very acidic and
I mean, look at all that plastic.
Yeah.
That's been left everywhere. These people would absolutely say, well, we need to reduce carbon emissions.
I've seen Extinction Rebellions there.
Yeah. Well, there was a guy with the XR logos on his nipples, wasn't there?
Yeah.
So these people are going to be totally bought into all of the woke environmental views, and that's how they leave the place. Very interesting. So I think this is just an interesting way of showing, look, there's the things you profess, there's the things you do. And in the case of the middle class virtue signaling Ramona types, these never meet.
And that is why I say that very frequently I'm really skeptical of the values people claim to be in favor of.
Well, it very much reinforces your point.
Rhetoric and practice seem to not go
Belief
together.
is what you
frequently.
continually do.
Exactly. It totally reinforces your point. And so they don't believe. They're totally insincere. And I'm tired of hearing from them.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Contemplation series, this episode on Order and Chaos. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.